Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Grind. My name is Kelly Johnson, your fun and friendly host. We are on episode 32, the very best one yet. Shout out to my podcast network, Ambiguous Production, and fellow pods on there, including You Mad Bro, the Sam Bustle podcast, and GDP, Goal Driven Professionals. We are currently in the works, or soon to be on SoundCloud and iHeartRadio. March is here and right around the corner is spring, which means outdoor tennis for those of you up in the Midwest, and sports talk on all the different sports. So March Madness, more spring training, ended NBA regular season. The list could go on and on. So I talked with Christian Johnson last week with you on episode 31, What's on Our Daily Grind. But today I have a new special guest on to share his story. So without further ado, let me introduce Richard Herskovitz. He is a competitive standing adapted tennis player, former amputee bodybuilder, husband, and father of 3 beautiful children. He resides in Reisterstown, Maryland. So overall, great person to have on our show today. So welcome, Richard. Woo!
Thank you. That was a mouthful.
Yeah, it's very exciting to have you on today's show. And yes, I'm excited to learn more about you and your story. So maybe do you want to start with giving our listeners a background on yourself, so who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Okay, my name is Richard Herskovitz. I'm from Reisterstown, Maryland. I'm an executive recruiter for the hospitality industry. I guess my story started back in 2005. I contracted a disease called infection called necrotizing fasciitis, known as the flesh-eating bacteria, which ended up costing me my right leg. I had that amputated. I had 3 amputations. First one was December 2006, and they took it below the knee, and then I had complications, and they had to revise it, so they took it a little bit higher, still below the knee. And then there were more complications in 2009. I had my leg amputated above the knee. Missing two joints, the foot, ankle, and knee, make it a big deal. Without the knee, it's a whole new ball game. But I don't let it stop me from what I want to do. I played competitive tennis when I was a kid in high school and college. My son got into tennis and started to become very good, and I wanted something that I could do, that the two of us could do together, so I decided to get back to tennis, playing with a prosthetic leg. I exceeded my expectations and turned out to be a pretty decent player. Last year I ended up ranked 8th in the world for standing adapted tennis. I continue to play tournaments. I practice every weekend. It's just a great form of exercise. I play against able-bodied people when I practice. Regular tennis rules, no pity on the amputee. So we just go out there and go for it.
That's great. That's wonderful with the still playing tennis and competitively. You're 8th in the world, which is such an accomplishment. I guess, how did you become interested in tennis to begin with? You mentioned you played in high school and college.
Yeah, I started off, I guess, when I was 11 or 12, and started taking lessons, and ended up being a pretty decent junior player. But then, life happens. You get married, you have kids. Mm-hmm. Time seems to never go your way. Just couldn't get back into it until a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you have, you have siblings or your family have a background in tennis or other sports in general?
No, I have 2 brothers. Neither one of them played tennis. They were both wrestlers and football players. Mm-hmm. I was the only one that played tennis in my family until I had my own family. Mm-hmm. And then we got into it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah. It's a lifelong sport, for sure. With your experience, I guess maybe can you walk us through? Like I mentioned before, you're 8th in the world. How have you built up to that accomplishment so far, or get higher in the ranks? Can you give our listeners a little bit of background on motivation and what it takes to see progress down the road in competitive
Yeah,
tennis. Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. There's one word that goes with getting better, and it's getting better in any sport or anything, any profession, anything you do, and that's practice. Just practice, practice, practice. I go out on the court. I try to play every Saturday and Sunday for a couple hours each day, and maybe 1 or 2 days during the week to get out there and practice. There's a international tournament coming up for Stanley Adaptive Tennis League in May 22nd to 24th in Tokyo, Japan. Which right now I don't have plans to travel to. I just need to raise some money. If anybody wants to contribute to that, then there's a good chance I'll play in the Tokyo tournament. Other than that, it's the daily grind. It's just out there, putting in the work and putting in the effort and getting the results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very, you hit the nail on the head there. Practice and able to keep on performing better and seeing results. You have a background in not just tennis but other sports, and I mentioned in your introduction bodybuilding. Can you talk a little bit more about helping being involved in other events or sports to help better yourself? Mm-hmm.
Sure. Every day I'm up at 4:30 in the morning. I get it. I have a full gym in my house, so I'll get downstairs and I'll work out Monday through Friday every day. I'll do weights and then I'll do cardio. Before I contracted the necrotizing fasciitis, I was a competitive bodybuilder in the late 90s and ended up retiring in 2000. But after I got my first amputation, one of the goals I had set for myself before the amputation was to get back on stage as a bodybuilder with a prosthetic leg. And I accomplished that in April of 2017, about 6 months after my amputation, where I ended up placing fourth in a local bodybuilding contest. I continued doing that. I ended up getting awards in Most Inspirational Bodybuilder of 2017. Some other awards. I ended up placing. I did probably about 10 or 15 shows as an amputee, and in all the shows I placed in the top 5 in my category. I competed against able-bodied competitors. I was the only one up there with a disability. I ended up retiring, I guess back in 2013 or so from bodybuilding, but I still live a bodybuilder's lifestyle. I still eat clean, eat healthy, work out every day, and the only difference is that I'm not competing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're the first person I'm the Daily Grind with that I've invited on that has like a bodybuilding background, so I don't know too much about that. But with the training, I do know it involves a good amount of training and persistence and staying focused. Can you maybe touch a little bit more about having being an amputee, participating in different sports and bodybuilding? I know you compete with you compete with able-bodied athletes out there. Is there some challenges that you have to overcome?
There's always challenges I have to overcome. My philosophy is that I can do whatever I want, and I just have to do things differently. When I'm lifting, there are certain exercises that I can't do because of the prosthetic. But I find a way to do everything that I want to do. I'm not letting my leg hold me back from anything. My philosophy on it is that it's not growing back. I want to get on with my life. I want to do what I want to do, and I end up doing what I want to do. Like I said, sometimes I just have to do it differently than other people, but I tend to get the job done.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. With I guess sports in general, with tennis, do you, for these competitions, you mentioned a little bit, there's an upcoming tennis tournament in Tokyo, but in general, have you been able to travel a lot? Is that common as a tennis player and bodybuilder too?
Yeah, I've been traveling, but not internationally. I've been traveling throughout the U.S. doing tournaments. There's the World Championships every year in Houston, the first weekend in December, which I've been going to for the past 3 years. I've done a couple of other tournaments throughout the country. Um, the the Turkey tournament is a tournament that I really want to attend, but I just financially I just have to wait and see what happens. I have a brother that lives in Turkey, so I
Mm-hmm.
have a nice place to stay and a nice travel guide if I go over there. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of travel. It's going to be a huge tournament. So we'll see what happens. I still have time to buy tickets.
Yeah. You still have time to think about it and whatnot. Do you, when you are in these other competitions, do you are there um, other standard adapted tennis players? Are there people in your area where you currently reside, or is that you just see them at these events?
I normally just see them at the events. We're kind of spread out through the United States. The U.S. delegation of USTA adapted standing team.
Mm-hmm.
So you normally just get together at events. My practices and um, everything else I do against the able-bodied people. There really aren't any more amputee players at the tennis club that I play at.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like there's not too many I guess players of your playing style, I guess if that makes sense. I guess can you talk to about just like transition from getting your first amputee to I guess the rehab and all the I guess blood, sweat and tears in regards to being able to I watched some of your tennis videos that you have online already and I'm just amazed by uh your playing style and what you've done. Can you maybe talk about, I guess, just building up to the level that you're at today and just
Yeah,
transitioning from, yeah. Mm-hmm.
no, I would do the same thing if I had two legs. It's a matter of practice, repetition. I have a special leg that I wear for tennis. It's a much lighter leg. It's no frills. There's no knee in it, so it's just a flexible foot. Excuse me. I yeah, I get out there and I don't think about my leg. I just think about playing tennis. I think about my strokes. I think about what I need to do to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think about my footwork that I need to use to get to the balls. I just when I'm out there playing, I'm just a normal tennis player thinking about what normal tennis players think about. On a double fault, you want to get your forehand in, get the ball across court, pass the guy. It's just normal thinking. I don't dwell on my leg at all when I'm on the
Mm-hmm.
court. I just look at myself as just a normal guy out there trying to do his best.
Mm-hmm. Did you mention did you have to like adjust your footwork or I guess like make like minor or major changes to your game like grip or racket or things like that?
It did make changes to my game. I'm not able to do the little stutter steps that you need to do, to get in your final position for the ball. I, I, I have to watch the ball closer and try to anticipate whether it's going to be a short ball or a long ball. My running isn't great. I try to do my best with court coverage, but hitting short angles. If I'm back at the baseline, it's going to get me just because I'm not able to run up to get to those balls. So there are adjustments I have to make just because of a lack of mobility on the court. When I'm serving, I can't really push off from my legs. I can't use the kinetic energy from my legs up to my racket. So it's more of an upper body exercise for me. So that's actually one of the reasons that I continue to lift weights and train every day is because when I'm playing tennis, I have to have a strong upper body because I really can't bring my lower body into my shots. So it's more power from the waist up. So I have to remain strong and train for it.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, is your I guess your player strategy, you're more, I guess, power focused now versus, I'm not sure what you were in the past, but that's more of your strength that you can utilize in your game.
I don't necessarily hit the hardest ball. I hit a flat ball that stays low to the court.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I have to try to win the point back to the baseline. If it's a short ball, I'll attack it and come in and come to the net. But most of my playing is behind the baseline. It's just ground strokes and trying to play the point where I can get a ball that I can be aggressive and go for my shot and try to win the point.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah, that's true. Or I mean, like, you utilize more like baseline ground strokes, serving versus, I guess in a singles match. I see. I'm guessing you play more singles than doubles matches.
Yeah, I predominantly play singles. It's actually easier for me to play singles than playing doubles. It, even though you have a partner, it seems that there's more court to cover. I enjoy playing singles more than I enjoy playing doubles. I do play some doubles, USTA doubles leagues throughout the year. So I do get out there and play doubles, but if I had my choice, I'd be out there practicing playing singles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I was just gonna ask too. I just played in a USTA NTRP tournament this past weekend. Um, and that was the format was like short sets, like for best of three short sets, which each set was 4 games each, and the tiebreak was 3-all. No ad. Do you play different? Do you play with regular scoring in your tournaments? Any modified, I guess, like format of it, or yeah? Can you tell us more about like when you, let's say, can you walk us through like a day of like one of the tournaments that you compete in, or a weekend of that tournament?
Yeah, it's the rules that we play with are standard tennis rules. There are no adaptations for me as a player. There's two different divisions in the standing advanced tennis. There's A and A1, and basically the difference between the two is the mobility of the individual. If you have a below knee amputation, or you're missing an arm, or just have one physical limitation, you play in the A division. When you have an amputation above the knee, or have two appendages affected, you play in the A1 division. So it's just a little bit less mobility. When you have an amputation below the knee, you can still run and get to most balls. It's much easier than when you have a amputation above the knee. Taking the knee away is a huge deal.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. And then yeah, with like walking into a tournament saying, or just as a competitive player, can you give like our listeners maybe just, I know there's a lot of people out there that play tennis that listen to the Daily Grind, but like some good like motivation in regards to match prep, or during the match, like match nutrition or post match, with your athletic background. Um, yeah, do you have any like is key advice for those tennis players out there?
Yeah, I don't have a ritual that I go through before the match. I kind of go out there and have a game plan in my mind of how I want to attack each point. And yeah, I'll try my best to keep the game plan, but with an opponent on the other side, you can't always do your game plan. Sometimes you just have to play the point as it's given to you. Um, as far as nutrition goes, have a high protein diet. With carbs,
hmm And then I guess maybe post match too. Do you have, or even pre match, I guess as well, or we should like stretching routine, like things to get warmed up or cooled down?
My main, I'm right-handed, and my right shoulder is what takes time to warm up. So I end up having to do maybe 20 or 30 serves before the match to get my shoulder warmed up. I don't have to do any stretching for my legs or my lower body. It's really just a matter of going out there and warming up properly. Just take your time and concentrate on your strokes. It, 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 I don't have to do much to get out there and play. It's more mental for me than physical sometimes.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. We've had on our show on prior episodes Chris Clark, who's a traveling tennis coach. Do you have your own coach? Do you work with a group of people? You mentioned you're on you play in USTA leagues. Do you have a team that you're a part of?
Yeah, I have a couple different teams for different seasons. I don't have a coach right now. I go out there and just try to do the best of my own. Uh, the tennis club I'm playing at is going through a transition in the spring, and then a whole new team of coaches that are much better than the coaches that are there now. Hopefully, I'll be able to find one to work with, just to help my game and improve. Kind of I step out on the court, I want to improve from my previous, um, you know, previous session. So it's just a matter of everything else, just practice, practice, practice.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Do you have favorite things that you do on the court or off the court too?
Um, well, yeah,
It's a
my other passion is dog training. So I have two dogs that I train. One that I competed with. In a sport called Protection Sports Association. The dogs I have are trained like police dogs. They're the Belgian Malinois, and that takes up a lot of my free time. With the dog training, it's the same thing. You have to get out there and do your reps. You have to you know, just have to practice, practice, practice. There's no shortcut for anything for the bodybuilding.
mm-hmm.
Just getting out there, sweating, putting time in the gym, eating properly. There's just no shortcuts to being good. It's a matter of discipline and motivation. Mostly the discipline to get things done.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah. With the dog train, did you? I guess how do you become interested in pursuing that? Did you already have dogs, or was that kind of on the same time?
I've always had dogs. I was a pawn broker for 40 years, and the last 23 years I owned my own store. So as part of the security for the store, I needed a personal protection dog. So that's how I got into the dog training and the competition was out of necessity to you know to have a personal protection dog at the store to keep me safe.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. Yeah, you can. It's great when things can overlap and you can use to the best of your abilities. And two, like you mentioned, you're very motivated and very focused. So being able to, have that athlete, you're very have that athlete minded perspective in training your dog. So that makes complete sense, and they're probably very successful in what they do, and I guess their job.
Yeah, the, the one dog that I competed with is extremely good in his job and protection or like the bite work, it's obedience. But it's the same thing as tennis. getting out there and doing the reps with the dog training. It's all positive reinforcement. That the dog gets rewarded for doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no shortcut to dog training. There's no shortcut to being good attendance. There's no shortcut to being a good recruiter. It's just a matter of reps, getting out there, doing it, and doing it.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like you live a pretty big schedule with everything on your plate and also recruiting as well. How do you find that balance, I guess, in living that daily grind? How can you, let's say if you have a stressful day or, different things come across your plate, how do you find that balance?
Well, that's why I get up at 4:30 in the morning to work out. I find that if you wait throughout the day to work out, it's always going to be an excuse. It's always going to be an excuse not to. So I get up first thing in the morning and get things done when there's no distractions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I give kudos to you getting up that early. Need a couple of cups of coffee or set some alarms. Yeah, that's awesome. Do you find
mm-hmm. Your body gets used to whatever it needs to get used to. I was never a morning person until I had to become a morning person. So, coffee definitely is a big part of that in my life. Caffeine is my friend.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any just with your background? Do you have any favorite books that that you've read, or athletes or people that you follow to give a shout out to our listeners on, like what has inspired you to compete in competitive tennis, or even from dog training, or just being motivated, achieving your goals? Do you have recommendations, or even on other podcasts as well?
My motivation comes from within. The books I read are just kind of murder mystery type books. They're not motivational books.
Mm-hmm.
I find that I do best motivating myself.
Mm-hmm. Very, very well said. We did talk about your daily schedule, and motivation. What's on your daily grind in the upcoming weeks later this year, Richard?
Well, when it gets warm, the tournaments start happening. So right now, I'm just trying to be the best tennis player that I can be. So right now, it's practice, trying things. It's just getting on the court, getting my reps in, just working to be better. Each time I go out there, I want to be better than the previous time. So it's waking up early, getting in shape, getting stronger, getting my cardio in, and then it's hitting the tennis courts. There's a lot that goes on each day. It's just a matter of how you playing your time. So I just have to have a good schedule for each game.
Do you with balancing or optimizing your time, do you have use different, like, to coordinate your schedule? Do you use different apps, or do you write it down? Like, how do you stay organized?
I'm just old school. I just keep everything in my head. I'm very anal or OCD when it comes to scheduling. Each day, and I get up at the same time. I
that's great. That's an awesome trait to have for sure. Being able to, be organized and not have to worry about things, and you know what to do and where to go and what you're doing for your training, in your daily grind, which is awesome. Do you have a word of the day to motivate our listeners out there?
My whole philosophy is that nothing is impossible. You have to want to do it. You have to find a way to do it, and then you just have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of want and effort.
Mm-hmm. Very straightforward. I like it. Richard, if our listeners want to get in touch with you after the podcast, how can they do so?
Well, you visit my website, which is just www.richardherskovitz.com. RICHARDHERSKO, V as in Victor, ITZ as in Zebra.com. You can email me through the link on my website.
Great. Yeah, we will for sure put Richard's contact info into our show notes for today. Thanks again for tuning in today's episode, and a big thank you to Richard for being on the podcast. When it comes to sharing my story, be sure to follow the Daily Grind at KJF Daily Grind on Instagram, and me, your host, at Kelly J. Lefty on Instagram or Twitter. Be sure to go to our podcast network website, ambiguousproduction.com, for more content such as You Mad Bro, the Sam Bustle Podcast, and GDP, Goal Driven Professionals. Listen on Google, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. Until next time, my name is Kelly Johnson, and have a great day.